Hey everybody, this is Rich and you're with Beekeeping with Rich. Today I want to show you, just call me Mr. Wizard because I'm going to show you something kind of cool, kind of sciencey, kind of techy, but a lot of fun hopefully. That's steam extraction of beeswax from old comb. Alright, so let's get started. First thing you need to do this is a steam extractor. Why can't you just put a tub of water on the stove and hang a bag over it? Well, that's because to boil water, you're at 212 degrees, and if you're at 212 degrees, then you're destroying some of the characteristics of the wax, because the wax would just be dripping down into the water instead of dripping down onto a tray. So you can do that, and by the time we're done with this, you can see how you could probably do that, but you'd be heating your wax up too much. Steam extracting, your wax is not going to get anywhere near 212 degrees. It's going to start melting out at 170. It's going to hit the cooled tray on the bottom and it's going to run out. So it's not going to overheat like it would if we were trying to do it the way I just described. So, at any rate, you need a steam generator unit. Earlix is the company that makes this unit. This unit is set up and comes with the intent of using it for wood bending, which is why I bought this unit. It was for wood bending. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or any other big box store. You can buy the same unit with a Wagner sticker on it and some accessories that's for wallpaper removal, and they'll charge you about $10 less than they would for this unit. So you can, if you really actually just want to go and commit to this, but if you have use for a steam unit, such as stripping wallpaper or deep cleaning a tile floor or something like that, you have other reasons to have this unit on hand. And that's where it would get to be useful. We'll come back to the unit in a minute as I show you how to assemble it. But what you need in order to use this for steam extraction is what we call a shim. That is like a 2-inch deep piece of assemblage of wood that is the same diameter as whatever you're going to use. In my case, I based it on a 5-frame nuke. And all you have to do is take a piece of sheet metal and bend it and staple it all the way around, but don't bend or staple it to the front. Let it stick out a bit. How you choose to tilt it slightly, well, that's up to you, really. I went ahead and made a dedicated unit using a couple of fan blades that were being thrown away otherwise because they already had an angle to them. You could just put a 2x4 at this end and a 2x6 at this end and prop the thing up on it, and it would work just as well. I like the stability of this, and since these hang on the outside, this all slides down as part of my stack of medium nukes. And then you put medium nuke number 1 on to get you some height, and you put medium nuke number 2 on to get you some more height, and that's high enough for what we're going to do here. Like I said, this little piece of metal, you don't have to try to put a bend into this. You can do it just flat. All you have to do is take a little stick, stick it right there, and that will give you more than enough angle downwards so that both the water and the wax that hits the bottom will just flow out. If you've looked at my other video on solar wax extraction, you've seen this little silicon tray before. Here it comes in useful again. You let the wax and the water flow out here into this tray. It quickly cools. Now, the other part that is needed, and you can do this any number of ways, this just happens to be the way I did it. I happen to have this dense piece of ponderosa pine, and to keep it from warping too much, I just want to put a piece of metal on the underside of it, same piece of sheet metal from that. So this will set on top here. Why? Hey, don't we need to seal this thing tightly? No, you don't need to seal it tightly. One of the things that comes with this unit is this fitting, which you drill one hole in one corner. I've put this on backwards because I like that to be at the back corner. There we go, like that. But when you put that on, where did it go? Oh well, won't worry about it. When you attach the hose to this, your steam is going to come out this end of it over here on the side. I wanted to show you that so you can visualize what happens next. You have a stick that is cut so that it will do crosswise in here. Okay. That way it's not going to, if you had it cut like this and was trimmed off here and something bumped and it twisted, it could fall down. If you've set it like that, you can still center. All you need to put your wax cappings, not cappings, but your nasty old wax in, is just a chunk of sheer material. Throw all your nasty junk in there, and you just hang it down in there. If you need a bigger box, well, you stack another super on. You know, it's just bring it up to here, whatever you need, however much you need to do it. Keeping in mind, I am limited by state law to 3 beehives in my backyard. So everything I do is extremely small scale. So that's why I can make small units like this. If you have a lot of stuff, expand the units. There's lots of videos online for large scale units of this nature. So you got a pile of cappings in here. Well, let's look, not cappings, a pile of old nasty dark comb, old brood comb that you're cycling out. Let's talk about how we're going to prep that for this first. Based on a manual written by the Royal Society of Chandlers back in the 1800s, the best way to prepare your comb is to break it into small pieces and soak it overnight in rainwater. I capture a few jugs of rainwater now and then to make sure I always have rainwater on hand. The reason for doing that is that the water soaks into whatever webbing is in the old comb and saturates it, because if you put the comb in there dry and you started this process, when the wax first started melting, it would saturate the webbing and you would lose a good deal of wax that way that you could recover if there was already something else absorbed into the webbing. And rainwater is what you want for that. And I will explain why. It's the same reason you want rainwater when you boil a bag of wax in water and let it come to rise to the surface. The reason is that wax is a fat. And tap water throughout the United States should be at 8.2 on the pH scale, which is an alkaline. Anyone who has cleaned up your wax, has run it through simmering it 2 or 3 times, you always end up with this thin layer of gray on the bottom. You keep having to scrape off. Well, that thin layer of gray is actually a saponification layer. You have heated wax and you have heated alkaline water, and so it's trying to make a soap. Whereas if you do this whole process with distilled water or rainwater that is not alkaline, then you don't get that gray layer. Okay? And that gray layer is one of the good reasons for using the steam method for extraction, because you don't get the reaction anyway to any great extent. So at any rate, here we have a bottom tray, piece of metal, thin metal, so that it cools quickly. The wax melts out of here, passes through the fine mesh, leaving all the nasty slum gum stuff behind. It runs out here. So does water. Okay, this isn't your only step to do this. Obviously, you're going to have clumps of wax and water through here, and you're going to gather that back up, and you're going to reheat that later on. You put this top piece on here. You got the fitting here. You connect the hose. And if you're going to ask the question, oh, couldn't I cut this hose shorter? Well, actually, there's an inner tube, and then this outer tube is to protect your hand from the heat of the inner tube. The two are sealed up inside here. No, you can't just shorten it up unless you have special tools to attach it all back together. At any rate, you filled this unit with distilled water. You turn it on, and in a few minutes you'll start having steam come out of here. It'll take a little while to heat this up, but then you'll start seeing a little trickle of water come out the bottom, and you'll start seeing trickles of golden, beautiful, clean wax coming out the bottom. Now, there's only one more thing to consider, and that is temperature. Like I said, 170, 100 is about right for wanting to melt your wax at. You don't want your wax to get above 200 degrees, and there's two easy ways to do that. One is a meat thermometer of this nature. You drill a small hole, stick it in, or just slide it in like that and read it, because, oh, well, that's not a sealed unit then. Well, that's the whole point. Whether you're using this or an electronic meat thermometer like this, which of course allows you to make a much tighter seal because the cable's a lot thinner, you need to not let the temperature get too high. When your readout, either from this or this, starts getting up around 180, you want to take a shim like this or a stick or whatever, and you want to start regulating your temperature by letting some steam escape. That's why a perfect seal up here doesn't matter, a perfect seal down here doesn't matter, because this thing will get more than hot enough inside, even leaking steam here, there, and yonder. You'd be surprised. I end up a lot of times, cracking it like that in order to keep the temperature below 190. And it's like, whoa, it'll get up to 190 before you know what's going on. You're cracking this thing to get that temperature back down to around 170. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You'll get an hour and a half run time from one fill of water on this. Keep your ear out for it, because it does not have a low water cutoff switch or anything like that, really. It'll boil to the water. Well, actually it does. It'll boil till the water gets too low, which it did here. This is about where it's going to stop. But I'm not sure the one for steaming the wallpaper does. It's one of the reasons I got the better unit. But like I said, I did it for wood bending.
And why distilled water?
Distilled water, because anytime you're making steam, you're going to have a scale buildup. And scale buildup is what always ends up destroying these units, because the scale gets built up around the heating element inside here. Use distilled water, you can triple or more the length of the active life of the unit. So that's it. It looks really complicated. It's a Mr. Science sort of thing. Let's pull this to the back. But really, it's easy. You just monitor what's going on. And beyond that, you want to make sure it doesn't get too hot. And what comes out is beautiful, clean wax.
And water.
And water.
How do you separate those?
Well, they don't mix together. All you gotta do is pour the water off. And if you want to get really fancy, you can pour it through a colander, I guess. And then you just put your wax in whatever low temperature heating source you use. I like to use a little miniature crock pot that doesn't get very hot. It doesn't come anywhere near boiling the wax or anything like that, and it melts it, and I pour it into my blocks and such.
Those little crock pots are for melting wax.
Oh, okay.
Like the scented wax.
Well, the one that I picked up here, I think, was actually supposed to make like individual fondues or whatever, so it was for melting cheese, but hey, about the same thing. But it doesn't get too hot. I mean, I've never gotten a temperature of 190 out of the crock pot. It's usually a little cooler than that, which makes it perfect to melt the wax back into, and then I can pour it into molds and have my little blocks of pure beeswax to make other things with. So that's it. It's a little on the pricey side if that's the only thing you're going to use it for. But if cleaning your tile floors with steam appeals to you, if stripping wallpaper is something you need to do, if even steaming drapes or whatever is in your future, you can justify the price of this unit. And then it's really nothing more than making one small dedicated metal shim down here. The rest of this can be made any which way you want, with no particular details needed. So that's a great simple way to melt wax beautifully without getting it too hot, which discolors the wax and breaks it down to a certain extent. Which certainly doesn't make it unusable for many purposes, but to be the best wax it can be, you should be melting it around 180 degrees and not getting any hotter. And it's easy to maintain and handle. You can kind of like do other things and just keep one eye on this while it's working, and keep one ear on this so that when it stops making noise, you know it's time to go fill it. So that's it for this episode of Beekeeping with Rich. Everybody have a great day. Oh, I didn't tell you what the temperature is here. It's February the 5th. The temperature is 80 degrees. The humidity is about 78% right now because we have a warm wind coming in off the Gulf of Mexico. We have blue skies with fluffy clouds, supposed to have a chance of rain later this evening. But I'm going to go out and fiddle with the bees a little bit, and I'll see y'all next time. Take care.